we're actually going to talk about the decision-making process a little bit and get into business intelligence and business analytics as a as a group of tools that are utilized for decision-making to support, particularly to support decision-making. So within an organization, any organization, there are hundreds and thousands of small decisions that are made every day. And having the best information to support these decisions can lead to, overall profitability, increased customer satisfaction, and all of the things that most businesses want to have happen. So when we talk about decision making, we have to talk about the different types of decisions that are made in an organization. And there are three categories of decisions. Unstructured decisions. Unstructured decisions, for the unstructured decisions, the decision maker has to provide judgment, evaluation, and insight to solve the problem. So unstructured decision-making decisions are not made on a regular basis. They're very non-routine decisions. There's no set process for how you go about making that decision. Because you don't make that decision on a regular basis, and because of that, we don't really know how we go about coming to we don't really have a set process for making that decision. Okay? Your structured decisions, these are very routine and repetitive decisions. These are the types of decisions that are made on a regular basis. And because they're made on a regular basis, organizations usually have structured, set up processes for how they make those decisions. And then you have semi-structured. Semi-structured decisions tend to fall somewhere in between structured and unstructured. So parts of those decisions may have structure to them, but not all of them. Okay? Now we can look at the organization kind of pyramid and talk about the different levels of managers and the types of decisions that they're making. So senior managers, and we can actually kind of take a look at this visual. Senior managers at the top of the organization tend to make mostly unstructured decisions. These are decisions about whether to expand into a new market, whether to discontinue a particular product line. Okay, these are the types of decisions that we don't make on a regular basis. Okay, middle management tends to have semi-structured as well as structured decisions. And your operational level of your organization tend to have mostly structured decisions. So at the operational level, you can think of an organization like Target, a retail organization. The operational level at the actual Target stores, making decisions about management decisions about schedules, weekly schedules, things like that. I mean, those are decisions that have to be made, but there's set processes because we make those decisions on a regular basis. Okay? And we also have to think about the decision-making process itself. Okay? I've seen decision-making processes with six steps. The one that your book adopts has 4 steps. 4 stages in that process. The first stage is called intelligence. This is where you're gathering information about the problem, right? What is the problem that you need to make a decision about? Okay. The second step is design. This is where you're looking at different solutions. You're starting to identify the solutions that are out there, the possible solutions to that problem. Step 3 is choice. This is where you actually make the choice. You maybe do pros and cons of the alternatives to figure out which one you're going to choose, and then you make that choice and implement it. Okay? Implementation is where you, after you've made that choice, looking at how well the solution is working. Okay? So for any good decision, you do want to have reflections afterward, especially if it's a big decision, as to whether the solution worked. Okay? Particularly in business. Okay, because there's a chance that you might have to make a similar decision or something like it later, and if you monitor the solution. You can figure out whether that solution worked or whether it didn't. Lessons learned are always actually a good thing, reflections afterward. Okay? So this is a visual looking at the stages in decision making. Gathering information, the design with the possible solutions, making a choice, and then actually implementing the choice and evaluating that choice after the fact. Okay? And at any time, you can actually, can possibly be an iterative process. Okay? So you can go back, if you implement a solution and you find out, you make a choice, you implement the solution, you find out it wasn't a good solution, you might have to go back and choose a different alternative to implement that alternative. So it's a very iterative process at each stage. Okay? Information systems to support decision making, they can only assist in some roles that managers have. Managers have a whole variety of roles that they play within an organization. The classical model of management says that there are 5 different functions that a manager has within an organization: planning, organizing, coordinating, deciding, and controlling. Okay? Newer behavioral models that look at the decision, the roles that that managers play within an organization. When you actually look at the types of roles that managers play, they found out that the actual behavior of managers, it's less systematic than they thought. It's less formal. It's more informal, less reflective, more reactive, and less well organized. So this classical model had this very nice box that managers were in, and when they actually looked to see what managers were doing, they found out that what they're doing doesn't fit very nicely into that box. So there's newer models that look at the roles that managers play within the organization. And again, there's a lot of different roles that managers play. Information systems can only help to support some of these roles. Okay, but the most widely used model is Mintzberg's 12 managerial roles, and it looks at 10 managerial roles. It looks at these 10 different roles in different categories. So there's interpersonal roles, being a figurehead, a leader, or a liaison. Those types of roles for managers, information systems are not going to help very much. Informational roles, being a nerve center, actually connecting to a whole bunch of people within the organization, a disseminator of information or a spokesperson. Information systems might be able to help a little bit with this, but it's not really the decision making that they're doing. The decisional roles, now these are the types of roles that information systems can help, okay? And these decisional roles are entrepreneur, disturbance handler, resource allocator, and negotiator, okay? Resource allocation in particular, that's one of the major things that managers do, making decisions about how they're going to allocate the finite set of resources they have at their disposal. Okay, so these decisional roles, these are the ones that information systems can really help to support. Now, when it comes to implementing and spending money on these systems and implementing these systems, there are some major reasons why investments in this technology doesn't always produce positive results. The information quality, so you can have a system that gathers information, but if it's not getting good information, then if you don't have a good input, the output's probably not going to be much better. Okay, so you have high quality decisions, you have to have high quality information to support those decisions. Management filters. Some managers have filters where they have biases where they reject some information that doesn't conform to prior conceptions. So some managers might have a certain idea of how the organization should run, and if they get information that doesn't support their the way that they see things, they might choose to discard that information instead of utilizing that information to possibly foster change within the organization. Some organizations, you might have organizational inertia or politics. Some organizations have very strong forces within the organization that basically resist change, especially major change. So you can get the greatest information system implemented within an organization, but if they resist the change that the information system tries to, kind of points to, or the information system could possibly foster, then it's not going to pay off in the way that they think it should. Okay, so those are three of the main reasons. There's other reasons why you might have investments that that don't give you the results that you think that they should. There's a type of decision-making called high-velocity automated decision-making. An example of this type of decision-making is the Google algorithm, the search engine algorithm, which once you give keywords, makes that choice as to what results to present to the user. Okay, it's automated. It's very quick. They have the little counter on the bottom. It shows you how many fractions of a second it took for them to give you these 10,000 results. But this type of decision making, it's really only made possible through computer algorithms that have these steps for highly structured decisions. So the algorithm that the PageRank algorithm that Google uses, that decision as to what results to present to the user, it's a very structured decision. Okay. With these types of decision making, humans are taken out of that decision. Okay, it's automated. And one example is this high-speed computer trading process. Trades are executed in 30 milliseconds. Okay, not necessarily, just because it's quick and just because it's automated doesn't necessarily mean it's good. They give you an example of something. Actually, there's a whole section in the book called it talks about the flash crash that was a result of these high-speed computer trading programs. You have to have, if you have this type of decision-making, you have to have safeguards in place to make sure that you have proper operation and regulation of the decision-making. You can't just set this automated decision-making loose and not actually maintain it and make sure that it is running and doing what it's supposed to do. Okay. For decision, there's a set of tools, kind of a large umbrella called business intelligence, which your book for this term business intelligence is that the whole infrastructure for collecting, storing, and analyzing data that's produced by a business. Okay. Creating databases, data warehouses, and data marts. And if you recall when we talked about databases and data warehouses and data marts, right? Data mining and other types of business intelligence comes from these data warehouses that our businesses create. Okay, business analytics is what you call tools and techniques for analyzing data. So when you actually talk about online analytic processing or OLAP, statistics, models, and data mining, that all goes under the umbrella of business analytics. Okay, and you have these business intelligence vendors that have these whole business intelligence suites that they sell to organizations. So in the business intelligence environment, there's 6 different elements that make up this environment. The data from the business environment of the organization, the business intelligence infrastructure, the business analytics tool set that is utilized by that particular infrastructure, the managerial users and the methods that are utilized, the delivery platform, is it an MIS system, management information systems, is it decision support system, is it a executive support system or ESS, okay? How is that, how is the business intelligence delivered, and then of course the user interface that is utilized, okay? So this looks at all of those different pieces within the, that environment that data coming in from the business environment, the infrastructure, which includes databases, warehouses, data marts, the tool set that you use, data mining, statistical models, the users and the methods they use, forecast, balance scorecard, which we're actually going to talk about, business strategies that go into that, and then of course the platform that delivers the business intelligence through the user interface to the user. Okay. Some of the capabilities of business intelligence and analytic systems. The main goal of these systems is to deliver accurate real-time information to users. So you're trying to get real-time information to decision makers at, when they need it. Okay? Some of the functionality of business intelligence systems include production reports. These are usually reports that are predefined, and that they're usually created at a set interval. Meteorized reports, these ones actually, these reports, users can create their own reports by inputting different variables into the reports. Dashboards and scorecards, so having some dashboard to deliver the information to the user. Having the ability to create ad hoc queries, which are queries that are done on the fly. Searching and report creation. Having the ability to get access to reports that you can drill down into the data. And then having forecast scenarios and different types of models that are available. So we can talk a little bit about the types of users that use business intelligence systems. 80% of these users are casual users. They rely on production reports or other types of reports that basically get pushed out to them from the business intelligence system. You have senior executives who use these systems, and they usually use the monitoring functionalities, kind of monitoring what's going on within the organization. Middle managers and analysts use a lot of the ad hoc reports. Operational employees use a lot of the pre-packaged reports that are available within these systems. Sales forecast, supply chain backlog, customer satisfaction, those are examples of some of those types of pre-packaged reports that are available in these systems. Okay? So we can look at the business intelligence users, where again 80% of the users for most business intelligence systems are these casual users that use these pre-packaged push types of reports. Then you have your 20%, which are your power users. Your IT developers, super users, business analysts, people that will go in and create their own ad hoc reports. They use a lot of the more sophisticated types of tools within these business intelligence systems. Okay. Examples of some business intelligence applications include predictive analytics, finding patterns in data to predict future behavior, so prediction, forecasting, right? You have credit card companies, an example of that, credit card companies use predictive analytics to determine customers that are at risk for leaving. So there's certain patterns in customer credit card usage that shows that that customer might be at risk for leaving. So if they have that information, they can possibly react to the prediction that that person might be leaving. Okay, data visualization, making it so that users can see patterns and relationships that would be difficult to see in just regular text. So actually visualizing the data and being able to see these things in a way that just having tables and numbers, it doesn't convey the same type of meaning. And then geographic information systems, or GIS. So GIS, Google Maps is an example of that. There's a lot. You can go into Google Maps, and there's data that is overlaid onto the map interface. You can search for different types of restaurants or categories of businesses, and it overlays that data on top of the map. So a GIS is any data that's overlaid on top of a map interface. Okay, and there's a lot of different applications of GIS that are out there. Okay, for two of the main strategies that management can use to develop business intelligence and business analytics include a one-stop integrated solution, which means you go to one vendor and you get the whole system, the hardware, the software, everything from that one vendor. Okay. Some of the benefits include the fact that everything's going to work well together because it all comes from the same vendor. It's made to work together. The downfalls, you're relying on one particular vendor, so you are sort of at their mercy. You might be, if you decide you want to switch to a different system, you're going to have a huge amount of switching costs that's involved. Or having this multiple best of breed solution, which is basically taking the different pieces that work together, hardware, software pieces from different vendors, and it gives you a lot more flexibility, so that's a benefit. It gives you independence, you're not relying on one vendor. But there's possible difficulties in integration. If you're getting pieces from different vendors and hoping that they all work together as one integrated system, you might run into problems with that. You also have to deal with multiple vendors. So when it comes to dealing with the hardware or dealing with a piece of the software, if you're dealing with a whole bunch of different vendors, you have to know what comes from what and how you get a hold of them if something doesn't work right. Okay. Can look a little bit more into the constituencies for business intelligence tools. Operational and middle managers are one constituency. That some of the things they use business intelligence for is they're monitoring the day-to-day performance of the business. They're using business intelligence for pretty straightforward, structured decisions. And they tend to use management information systems as the output for their business intelligence. If you're a super user and business analysts, they're using that very sophisticated analyses that are available within these systems. They're creating customized reports, and the output that the system that they're utilizing business intelligence tends to be the DSS, or the decision support systems. Okay. Now DSS, decision support systems use mathematical or analytical models. DSS allows for different types of analyses. Things like what-if analysis, sensitivity analysis, backward sensitivity, OLAP, and multi-dimensional analyses, or pivot tables within that particular type of system. So this is an example of a sensitivity analysis. And a sensitivity analysis is where you're asking what-if questions repeatedly to predict a range of outcomes when one or more variables are changed multiple times. So this one gives you an example of a sensitivity analysis that was done to see the effect of the changing sales price of a necktie and the cost per unit of the product's break-even point. Because if this product, the cost and the sales price is changing, then the break-even point is going to change. So you're using this sensitivity analysis to give you the result of that. Okay. This is an example of a pivot table that is looking at customer regional distribution and advertising sources. So again, you can view different pieces together and kind of mix and match the way that you view them. This is a pivot table from within Microsoft Excel. So. Decision support for senior management. We talked about the fact that different levels of the organization make different types of decisions, and because of that, they need different types of decision support. Okay, so senior management, if you recall, at the kind of top of the organization, they tend to make a lot of unstructured decisions. Okay, so one tool that they utilize is the balanced scorecard method. Okay, the balanced scorecard method actually looks at the outcomes of the organization on 4 different dimensions: finances, business processes, the customer, and learning and growth. Okay, and in each of these areas, it looks at key performance indicators, or KPI. So they have certain metrics that they're looking at, and they're measuring the organization on these metrics. Okay, so this is an example of a balanced scorecard. Right? And they give you some examples of some of the key performance measures that you might utilize for customers, things like customer loyalty or satisfaction. Right? Those might be metrics, and how you measure satisfaction or loyalty is going to be, a metric in and of itself. Some of the financial areas: cash flow, return on equity, learning and growth, right? Internal promotion percentages, employee turnover. Gender ratios, maybe these are things that, and again, every business can kind of pick and choose the key performance measures they decide that they want to measure their organization on. Okay, but this is just one example. This balanced scorecard is actually a frequently utilized method of measuring organizational performance. Okay. Other types of decision support for senior management include business performance management, or BPM, which is where you look at your firm's strategies and you're translating them into operational targets. So you take your strategies and you actually get targets from these strategies. You can also have key performance indicators that are developed from those targets. So again, and these key performance indicators tend to be measurable outcomes. So it's a metric that you can actually measure. You set a lot of times with these balanced scorecards, they tend to have industry benchmarks that you can utilize to measure where your organization is in regards to your entire industry. Okay, so there's usually benchmarks that you can utilize, so you don't have to arbitrarily set those key performance measures, key performance indicators. Some of the data that you utilize: internal data, external data, internal data and external data, and then you have drill down capabilities to be able to see the whole picture, but drill down into the specifics of the data. Okay. One other type of business intelligence is these group decision support systems, and these support the decision-making of an entire organization or a large group within an organization. Okay, for these GDSSs, they tend to have specialized hardware and software, because it's not just individuals' decision-making that you're supporting, but it's a whole group, and there's a lot of differences in group decision-making that you have to incorporate into these systems. Okay, things, they have things that help you to facilitate meetings and other types of group, group decision-making needs. Promotes collaborative atmosphere. It guarantees anonymity. Why is that important? In organizations, if you're not able to put input into these decisions without being identified, it's going to affect the input that you're going to give, because you're being identified. Okay? And they tend to use structured methods to organize and evaluate the ideas that are generated through these meetings that are facilitated. Okay?